but many days he searched for the land in various ways. Well, troubles he had some, but wasn't forgotten. He sent him his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sends with pure sweet love a sign from above on the wings of a
Okay. Everybody can start working on time. Okay, everybody, please. House tail, it'll be fine. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Come over this way, sis.
You see, our life is not our own.
We don't make decisions where we're going to stand or where we're going to sit. Okay? Now, the only thing is we're going to be facing this way, too. That's okay, bro? Okay.
Our hearts are very filled with emotion today. I would have to say that the Spirit of the Lord is so powerfully here.
Praise you, Jesus.
I could hear him in the music. I could see it in their souls and in their eyes. And they even played a song that a little girl sang before she died. She was only 4 years old. And this will be a week and 7 years that she's gone, and her name is Katie. And she sang that little song.
Little Katie Hernandez, 4 years old. This little heart of mine, I'm going to make it shine.
This little light of mine. And that's what we have to remember. We have to remember that our light must
I
shine.
think you can go down a little bit. That's good. Another one that our young people, like you're all young people, sang for us today was Come Back to Me.
Mm.
And that's a very special song for us because it was a song that touched our heart when we came back to the church. We had a conversion experience in 1975. Our son died of an overdose of drugs in 1971. And with great anger to God, naturally we always blame God, you know. He's got broad shoulders, he can take it.
And he forgets, you know.
We left the church, went away in anger, would not go to church. The only time we went to church in that 3.5-year period was on the anniversary of his death. Otherwise, we would never go to any other church. Now, why we went to church on the anniversary of his death, if we didn't believe in God, if we didn't love God, did not make sense, but that's what we did.
We have an expression, you cut a Catholic, no matter what he says or where he goes, and he bleeds Catholic. In that time, we did the most ridiculous things, I especially. You see, I cannot remember an hour in my life that I was not in love with Jesus. But I loved him like a young girl. It was a teenage love.
Like the Song of Songs, wisdom.
A love that doesn't know, only feels. And feelings can betray us. I thought I loved my husband with all I could love. But I tell you, almost 42 years later, that, oh, if I had known how much I would get to love him, I probably would have died of ecstasy or fright. And that has been our walk with Jesus.
We really believed when our son died that was a tremendous waste. this was a brilliant young man. He had a 4.0 grade point average. He had a photographic memory. When we came from New York to Los Angeles, he was so intelligent that they could not give him enough in high school, at Loyola High School. So they sent him half a day to Loyola High School, half a day to Loyola University. He was so brilliant. By the time he died, he could not fill out a simple job application. This is what the drugs had done to his mind. And so we blamed God for a tremendous waste. This young man was destined to do wonderful things, great things. And now, 27 years later, we really understand that our merciful God took him away from a terrible situation, and through us, his life has not been a waste. We would never be doing the things that we're doing. We never would have gotten involved in church when we came back because we had what we consider a miraculous conversion experience. Or rather, I did, and then eventually Penny did, because she's Italian. It takes longer for the Italians.
You know, we Latins are very stubborn, aren't we? We're very stubborn, aren't we?
But we have a priest in our diocese. He's 82 years old, and he's been with us for many years, gone on many pilgrimages with us. And when we wrote the book, We Came Back to Jesus, which talked about the death of our son and our leaving the church and coming back, he said, I understand why the Lord took your son. And Penny said, why? He said, so that you would do this work. And she said, will you tell the Lord he can keep his work? Give me back my son.
And he said, that's why the Lord never asked you. You know, when we came back to the church, we had to answer the question, how could we have ever left you, Mother Church? We had to answer the question, how could we have ever turned our back on you, Jesus? You see, the night our son died, I had met a woman who told me, every time you worry, your son has to do something and he can't. So every time you worry, take the face of Jesus and put it over the face of your son. Oh, I tried that. All of us who may have a loved one who's in danger, I think I must have tried it sometimes 1,000 times a day when I didn't know where he was or what was happening to him. The night he died, my son-in-law called us and said, Richard is ready to come home. He wants you to pick him up tomorrow. And I said, let's go get him right now. And he was our baby. And I guess I even called him baby. Treated him like a baby. And Dad said, no, now we have to treat him as a man. He wants to come of his own volition, wants us to come tomorrow to bring him home. And we must honor that.
Lots of seats up front, ladies.
And
So we didn't go that night.
And he turned to me and he said, what is wrong with you? I said, I don't know, but I'm frightened. I am so frightened. My son and I had a closeness. We always knew what the other was feeling, and I was frightened. So I started to pray, and I saw, it must have been maybe an hour, hour and a half, I can't tell you exactly. But I saw the face of Jesus, and I saw the face of my son, and I could never bring them together before that, but they just came together, and Jesus' face covered my son. I had prayed to Jesus that night, take him. I have failed miserably with the beautiful gift that you gave me, so please take him. Jesus took him. Oh, was I angry. You knew I didn't mean take him. You knew I meant take over in his life. You tricked me. I will never say the Lord's Prayer again. I will never acknowledge your will in my life again. And so we didn't lose only a son. We turned our back on Jesus.
We lost God at that time. And when Father today said, you know, we say the Lord's Prayer just trippingly off the tongue, nobody ever really thinks about what we're saying. We invite you to read the Lord's Prayer, to actually examine it, study it, see what it is that you're actually saying. When we made a decision we would never say the Lord's Prayer again, it was because we could never trust the Lord again. We would never give over our wills, our lives to the Lord because He cheated us.
It's a heavy prayer. It's a heavy prayer of trust.
So when you say that prayer, think about what it is that you're actually saying.
And this is why when we say the Lord's Prayer, it's not that we're not saying it to the Lord, but Bob and I face each other, our eyes reminding each other that whatever may come, we want His will, and we trust in His will. Because Jesus never left us. In our book, we tell of the many times He tried to reach me, and I refused. I mean, miraculous times, unexplainable times, and I would not accept Him. He had to come to a very gentle soul, my husband.
The worst times probably were the holidays. I don't know if anybody's ever lost a child, but holidays, or a parent or a husband or wife, holidays are very difficult because you always go back in your mind to those times you shared together, the holiday times. And of course that person's not here anymore, and so it's very difficult, and the anger and all of it comes right back. So we would try to get through the holidays.
Rush them, rush through.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, get it over with, get it done with. Do a lot of party, give gifts, anything, but don't get involved in relationship. Don't talk to each other about anything that means anything. Just
don't remember.
Do things. And so this year, 1974, we got through Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Penny had an operation. And I know I was starting to, I could feel the pull of the Lord wanting to go back to church, wanting our lives to start again, because we're in limbo for 3.5 years. We did nothing, really. We had a house that was like a crash pad. We just stayed there, and we never did anything to it. So it was New Year's Day, 1975, and we had our daughter over, and she had a friend and my grandson, and we had dinner, and we watched a football game. Now, we do not watch football games.
I'm sorry, we're very unathletic.
We're not football people, and here I am watching this idiotic I just wonder what God thinks when He looks at people watching football games, or playing golf for that matter. Anyway, we watched the football game.
No disrespect to you
No
people who watch football.
To the national sport. Anyway. We went through that, went through dinner, didn't talk about anything except the idiotic football games, and then it was over. And I said to Penny, the kids left, and I said, you know, honey, you go and watch TV, and I'll clean up the dishes. And because we were still best friends. We'd always been best friends. That never changed, but we grieved separately. That's the only thing we were not together in, was
dangerous. Very dangerous.
So I was in the kitchen, and our dining room was off the patio, and I took the tablecloth and shook it out. And as I shook it out, I felt, I could hear. See, now in those days, it was not a word of the Spirit, a word of knowledge. We didn't know any of that stuff. I had a thought. That's all, a thought. The thought was, it's time to go back to church. That was the thought. It was the Holy Spirit. But to me, in 1975, and so I went inside and I called the church. And we had never been in that church. We lived there 3 years, never stepped inside the church.
We didn't even go there for the anniversary of our son's death. We
No,
went back to Malibu, our old parish.
And the priest answered the phone. I said, what time is Mass tomorrow? And he told me. Now I had to go in and tell my wife. And the thought that came to me was, I want to go to Mass every day. Not only Sunday, I want to go every day to Mass. I hadn't been to Mass in 3 years. So I go inside, and Penny is sitting there, and the TV is on, but you could see her eyes are glistening a little bit. She's teary-eyed, and she's million miles away. And I said to her, honey, how would you like to go to Mass every day from now on? I hadn't been there 3.5 years.
And then I had a thought. What did he do? But I had another thought. For all the years we were married, I would say to Bob and the children, let's go to Mass on Sunday. Now, I have to tell you, the Eucharist is the center of our life. I did not know the Eucharist.
See, we did not know, and I went to Catholic grammar school and high school, but we did not know our faith with a head and a heart synthesis. We knew it, I knew it with the head, Penny knew it with the heart. She was in love with Jesus. I knew the faith because I studied it in school, but it didn't mean a whole lot to me. It was just a lot of stuff that the priest and the nuns taught us. You must have a synthesis. You must have the head, the knowledge, because you've got to be able to defend, you've got to be able to evangelize, you've got to be able to teach, but you must have the heart. And there's got to be a balance of the head and the heart. You can't just be filled every Thursday night at the prayer meeting and then go and lose all the gas and then come back and be filled up again. You've got to balance it out so that you can be in with the Spirit all the time, that He can guide you and send you on your way. And we didn't have that. We had either the head or the heart knowledge. And when something happens, if a tragedy happens, you don't have the strength to hold up. You need that strength.
But the thought came to me also, he went to church with you all those years, even though he didn't want to. The one who knew nothing wanted to go. Because even from the time I was a child, this is no disrespect to any other of the people who believe in the Lord, our brothers and sisters in Christ. But my father, you had to go to church on Sunday.
Didn't matter what church.
If we were in a village in which we had a country home, there was no Catholic church. We found out later there were 65 catacomb Catholic families there. He brought us to a Methodist church or a Presbyterian church or whatever church. And I'd walk out of church with no knowledge. And I'd say to my father, I don't feel Jesus there. And he'd say to me, well, of course he's there. Did you hear that wonderful minister? Did you see those people? Did you see the love between them? Of course Jesus is there. And I would say, I don't know. I don't feel him the way I do at St. Joseph's. That was our parish church. We went to church.
Okay, now, the priest celebrated the Mass that day. He took us into the confessional, and we told him we hadn't been to church in 3.5 years. This was a very quickie confession because it was 5 minutes before 8. Mass started at 8 o'clock. So we went.
Those are the best
years,
kind, right?
Get it fast. Either that or get somebody who doesn't speak English.
I've done that in Italy too.